How's it going, guys? My name is Jade Castro, and this is the BlackWlvz.
Everybody, Garret here. Welcome to BlackWlvz Podcast. Today we have Amit, friend of both of ours. I've known for a number of years, kind of serendipitously through living close in proximity to each other, and then kind of got reconnected with you because we go to the same gym where he resides, and then it just became what it is right now. So,
well, it's funny that's how me and you met.
Yeah.
And that's how me and you met.
Exactly. Everything happens in the gym.
Yes.
So, we both talked to you on separate occasions. You've had a lot of great experiences in your life. And, part of what we try to do with the BlackWlvz Podcast is to speak greatness into the universe through the human experience. And Avi's had a lot of great experiences in his life that we want to talk through. A big thing we promote here is, everybody falls, but not everybody picks themselves up. And a big thing we want to do through the podcast is explore opportunities where people, were faced with challenges and were able to pick themselves up.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about some of these things. A little bit. We have some questions that we're going to go through a little bit, but we want to keep it organic. But before we start, is there anything you kind of wanted to...
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for having me again. To your point, we've had some amazing organic conversations in the gym. It's a great community where we all sort of live and chat and connect at an individual level. So those are rich conversations, and I really love those. So that's why I like coming to the gym, right? So thanks for having me, and happy to share my life experiences, right, with you guys and with whoever is watching all this.
Yeah. Do you want to start off with a little bit of a background on you, a little bit, just like how you would synopsis and the kind of like describe yourself, like, where you're from, what you do, like, I know you're a father, right? Like stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, sort of a 30,000 foot view of who I am, where I come from. I was born and raised in Mumbai, India, moved to the country when I was 21 years old, and landed in Cleveland, Ohio, came for my MBA. I had no clue where Cleveland, Ohio was on the map. I was trying to get out of Mumbai just for, seek an opportunity to come here and study here and work here. Didn't have enough money to pay for my MBA. I sort of had to put myself through college. I was working 4 jobs, on campus, off campus, got a scholarship. H-1B visa is really hard to get. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but...
but I never...
Yeah, the work visa, right? There's X number of work visas that are sort of allocated for Indians and Chinese and the rest of the world. So that was hard to get, but was able to get that, put myself through MBA school, had many opportunities. Spent time in Cleveland, Ohio. I spent 7 years in New York, and I've been here in the Bay Area for about 12 years. Now part of the high-tech space, and have been in sales my whole life. I jokingly tell that that's the only thing I'm qualified to do. I think we're all in some capacities in sales, whether we're selling or being sold to. So I choose to be on the other side of the spectrum. And to your point, father of a 13-year-old, been divorced for about, let's say, almost 8 years now. And living a good life now. It's ups and downs. There are things that are sort of shaky right now, but all in all, can't complain. It's a good life.
Great. That's awesome.
I think we all go through the peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
we can understand that.
Ups and downs are all over the place. Maybe we could start out with the other thing, a kind of nice segue into this. One of the things we want to talk to you about is any mental challenges you faced. I mean, you've talked a couple about the challenges already, but any particular mental challenges that you faced and like how you've overcome those or overcome it in particular, if there's one particular one you wanted to focus.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about 2. I'm 45 years old. There's many times in my life that have been challenging situations, but 2 are front and center for me. And sort of in chronological order, I got, I went through a pretty bad marriage. So that was really, really hard. I was married for 7 years, but I knew it was over literally come year 3. I'm like, this is going to be hard. And it just progressively got worse. So that was one. And then the second one was just 4 years ago. I lost my younger brother. He took his own life.
My condolences.
Thank you. And that was completely unexpected. It completely shattered the family, especially because even though he was my younger brother, I looked up to him in so many ways. Spoke to him 4 or 5 days a week over the phone. We traveled the world together, and I know he was struggling physically with some stuff, but never to a point where he would have taken a step like that, right? So that completely shook my world and shattered me to the core. And I was here and he was there, and it was COVID. So just sort of pick up the pieces, trying to figure out what happens to the 2 aging parents, try to figure out what happens with the family, go back to India for his last rites, right? So it was a really challenging situation because at the time I wasn't even seeing anyone. So it was just me with, at the time, Soha, who's my daughter, was 8-9 years old, right? And then having to figure out a way to scramble, get to India, say my piece, say my goodbye, come back to a very demanding job. So that was very hard mentally for me. And so those are sort of the 2 big mental challenges. And when you ask me how I've overcame it, I think it's just coming back to the known, coming back to what we control, and perspective, right? And when I share this story with my family and friends, the way I explain it is, we all have a perspective, right? We all are walking with lenses attached to our head, right? Think of the virtual reality.
Yeah, our own experience.
Our own experiences, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say what's right, what's wrong, what have you? It's the way we see life.
Yeah.
It's the way we experience life. And then we sort of come up with judgments and ideas.
Yeah.
So the way I thought about that experience is, okay, I had a specific view on life where, me and my family are untouchable. My brother is great. He's going to be with me forever, right? And we're going to continue building. And someone took that lens and completely shattered it. Yeah. And now I had to put a new lens on, and then have to recalibrate and sort of figure out what the new normal is.
Yeah.
But, the famous saying, the show must go on. I have an 8-year-old dependent on me. I have a job to go back to. I have colleagues to go back to. My parents need me to be strong, right? So it's coming back to the basics, coming back to what you know, whether it's exercise, meditation, philosophy, spirituality.
Yeah.
And then just what I did was I would ask myself on a daily basis, what is it that my brother would want from me?
Yeah.
How would he want me to show up? And then I would try to show up in that matter and in that format, right? And then try to make him proud.
Yeah.
So that was sort of my coping mechanism.
Okay. Question for you. If you have somebody that was in your brother's position, what would you tell them now to kind of help them through these process your brother went through? What would you say to them now? Or what would you say to your brother?
If I could have a conversation with my brother while he was alive, what would I be saying? Yeah, I think I would say to them, this too shall pass, right?
Yeah.
The physical injury that he was sort of dealing with, in mind you, it wasn't that crazy. But he was diagnosed with OCD, and it was COVID, so there was a lot of social isolation.
Yeah.
And he was at like the pinnacle of his career, right? He was in Bollywood, and he worked for like one of the largest executive producers in Bollywood, making good money, single, good looking, fit. And the reason he was so frustrated is because he could not perform the way he was used to performing because his physicality was holding him back. And then that's what was having him spiral mentally, right? So what I would say to him is, this too shall pass. I have way more information now than I did before, and I don't know if the podcast was to go there, but there's a lot of good work that's being done with psychedelics and mushrooms. I would love for him to explore that world with a therapist and see if we can sort of help him create some new neural pathways and think about his health and his life differently.
Yeah.
Right. Again, I'm a big believer of that world. I know we're still learning a lot and it's coming to light as we speak.
Yeah.
I think in the next 10 years, that's going to be like the final frontier when it comes to mental health. Right.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I knew as much as, if I knew how much he was hurting and suffering,
yeah.
I'd be on the first flight back home and try to bring him here and try to get him help from some of the top physicians and doctors in the world at Stanford and what have you. Unfortunately, I didn't realize how much of a battle he is, facing on a day-to-day basis, right? Because I spoke to him every day, but he wouldn't share as to how hard it is for him, right?
Well, a couple things, right, and is kind of follow up on that is going back to perspective, right? We only have our own experiences. We only have our own perspective. We only have our own lens that we're looking through.
Yeah.
So that's, for people who are suffering, not everybody's willing to share, right?
But true.
No matter how close we are to them, right? I have family members who've had struggles and stuff like that. Myself, like we don't always share everything, right? Hey, we can shoulder it. We can deal with it. That's definitely a component of it. And I don't know what Indian culture is like, but I know American culture where I grew up. And, one thing with men, right, is we're not really supposed to be weak.
Yeah, don't be a pussy.
Yeah.
It's well,
that's American culture.
I say that because it's very similar in the Indian culture. To your point, where until now, I think mental health was not even a thing.
Yeah.
I remember growing up. Again, my brother was extremely intelligent, as you can imagine, and we knew he had OCD. Like as a kid, I remember he'd wake up in the middle of the night and he'd like turn on and off the switch.
Yeah.
Right, like 5 times, and we don't know what's going on.
It was
we made fun of him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Made fun of him, and parents wouldn't engage. And my brother was very private. He'd play with his own toys. He wasn't really social. But now I know.
Yeah.
He wasn't, because he was conscious, right? No one could understand him. And it's the thing that we could talk about mental health. And the fear is, will they understand it? Yeah. Will the person I'm talking to really understand what is it that I'm going through, right? And I think it's a society, it's the culture, and it's also us not wanting to project ourselves in a weak light. And I think it was a combination of all three of those.
Yeah.
And he did seek help, right?
Yeah.
He had someone he was working with, which sometimes you need more.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that moment of weakness that takes over us, and then we do things that we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
So
it's
unfortunate. Yeah,
struggle. I mean, I never had anybody in my family close to me like that do that, but I have had a couple friends who've taken their own lives, right? And that's rough. And I'll just throw that out there. We're recording this in November. This is Men's Health Month, right? Yeah. So
I don't know that.
Yeah. So at least in the US, right?
Okay.
November is Men's Health Month. So, from physical health, right? If you're a man, take care of yourself physically. If you're over the age of 40, get to a doctor, get a physical.
Yeah.
If you're struggling mentally, also, don't be afraid to go get help.
Yes.
Right. It's not a sign of weakness.
Definitely not.
Try strength and courage. Get out there and put yourself out.
And there's a lot of great services out there that are totally free. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there and really ask for the help.
Yeah. And if for those of you who have men that they love in their lives, don't be afraid to support them in those endeavors as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes dudes are pretty stubborn.
They are
quick giving the ads to do stuff, but that's rough, man.
Yeah. And then a health plug here, as you guys are telling everyone to go out and get help. I mean, I'm reading this book right now by Peter Attia called Outlive. Have you guys heard of it or read it? It's the entire concept is medicine 3.0, right? So medicine 2.0 is all about symptom, fixing the symptoms, right? You have a headache, you go take aspirin, right? Or you have diabetes, you go take this medication, right? And the whole concept of medicine 3.0 is it's all about preventative medication. And preventative, you don't want to get to a point where you have diabetes. So you don't want to get to a point where you have cholesterol. And you don't want to get to a point where you have a mental breakdown. So it's a great book. I highly recommend it. Again, I'm not related to Peter Attia at all, but love the guy. It's a great book. I think everyone will find value in it. He talks a lot about men's health, women's health, especially, again, us in 40s. Getting ahead of some of the things that will happen. We'll thank our younger selves. It's
a perfect segue to the next question. What role does physical health play in your overall well-being?
What's funny is I at this point, I think I don't really look at health in terms of physical, mental, spiritual. It's all health. Right? I think they all are interconnected. So when you specifically say physical health, I think about going to the gym, right? Finding myself in the weight room, working out 5-6 days a week. And I started lifting when I was 18 years old. Fun story there. The reason I started lifting is I played a lot of basketball. I was a tall, skinny guy. Every time I left the house, they were like, does your family not feed you? Why are you so skinny, right? So that really pissed me off. And you and me both, brother. I had the same problem. So that really pissed me off. And, I used to play a lot of basketball, and I saw a dietitian, and dietitian like, look, you need to start lifting weights and stop playing basketball. Like, you're burning way more calories. I'm like, no problem. I'll do that. And I gave up a sport that I absolutely love, and I started just lifting like a maniac, and I was able to get fit, and that's just stayed with me, right? And then I realized over time, as I gained more weight and sort of got a little fit, it's a relative term, some of the triathletes and the Ironman in the world will say that, we're not fit, but we're doing okay, right? We're doing okay. But it's that's the grounding, right? Coming to the gym is the mental grounding. That helps my perspective. That helps me continue my journey with my spiritual growth. That keeps me centered, and I know that's something I control that I can go back to, right? So even when I went back to India for 2 weeks to say bye to my brother and do the last rites and execute his will and do all that. Like, first 3 days I wasn't, but then for the rest of the time, I was in the gym. Because in order for me to function and give everyone around me 100%, I had to have some sort of a physical workout or activity. Right? So it's not just physical, it's very mental. It's all interconnected.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, right? It's a lifestyle. So, and as you get older, physical fitness changes, right? When in my 30s, I wanted to bench 225. I don't anymore. Right? Because now I know if I didn't do that, I'm going to hurt myself. I still want to. Okay, fine. Having the push-up competition. My name was on number 1, and then I show up the next day, and this guy is number 1. I'm like, come on, man.
Son was it?
Dude, I forget.
We were out there though. He was like 150.
We were out there, and later on, X amount of time, I forgot. I think it was like 60 seconds. How many you back now, right? And we were competing with 20 years old and 30-year-old guy. And I'm like, we're still a whole lot old. We're still a whole lot. But I hope that answers your question. I'm happy to.
No.
Give you on that.
I have another question for you.
We have the discipline though to kind of expand on that a little bit, right? Like, like the discipline of going to the gym, right? Like centers and brings you down and kind of gives you a place to be, right? And
semblance,
just like normality, whatever it ends up being. Like, it doesn't have to be the gym; it is for you, right? But for anybody else out there, right, find your center, right? Like,
move.
If it's going out for a long walk, if it's going and just like meditating, like you said, whatever it ends up being, find those moments in your
fight. I think a lot of people will be like, Garret, Jade, how we have busy lives. We don't have time.
No, we have to find time.
So I think I can only the way I look at life is it's all about connecting dots, and we're learning constantly, right? I'm learning from this conversation. I'm learning from podcasts, I'm learning from books. So there's another plug, just like Peter Attia, there's another author that I really like and enjoy. His name is James Clear. You know who that is?
No.
He's the guy that wrote Atomic Habits.
Okay. I heard of that book.
And another incredible book, would recommend, your viewers, listeners, to go check it out. He talks about habit stacking, right? So how do you form a habit and keep a habit?
Yeah.
And the easiest way is you stack it on top of something that you're already doing.
Okay.
Right? So for example, you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is you have a cup of coffee, right? You're trying to get into the habit of meditate, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Stack it either before that or after that.
Yeah.
So now you know when you wake up, after your cup of coffee, you're going to meditate, or you're going to go for a run, or you're going to go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
And the chances of you sticking to that habit now are significantly higher, right?
Yeah.
Versus it being ad hoc.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not dropped into the middle of your day. It's just like for my experience, my gym is lunchtime.
There you go.
Right? It's like, I know when I take my last meeting or right before lunch, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change to my workout gear. I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to drive to the gym.
Yep.
I'm going to do my workout, and then I'm going to come home and I'm going to eat on the backside of that.
That's right. So,
Right.
so everything you just said is all a part of habit stacking, right? The other thing I'll share with you that's worked for me, similar, just the conversation of getting to the gym or working out or what have you, right? When you invest in yourself, when you buy the gym membership, or when you buy gym clothes, or when you hire a personal trainer, now you're investing in yourself.
Yeah.
Now you're forcing yourself to get up and actually go do that. So again, especially for folks, men, women, a little later on in their lives, right, 30s, 40s, who've not formed the habit, invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Go hire that trainer,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Go get that gym membership.
Yeah.
Show up. I mean, I can tell you countless number of times when I wake up in the morning and I'm just not feeling it. I just don't have the physical energy to go to the gym.
Well, I tell people all the time, the hardest part
Is to get there.
is walking through the front door.
That's it. That's the hardest part. It's funny you say that because there's so many times I come myself, I'm like, Amit, don't work out, right? This is the self-kindness, right? You've got to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Don't work out. No problem.
Yeah.
Just go to the gym.
Yeah. Just go.
Go have 2 conversations.
Yeah. There you go.
Go do 5 minutes of rowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it's funny because some of those days ends up being the best workout.
For sure.
Because I'm there now, I'm seeing people, I'm motivated, everyone's sweating. I'm like, I think I can do it. I think I can get this in.
A lot of people don't realize that 30 minutes of working out every day will just increase your life.
100%.
That's it. I mean, if you want to live longer on the planet, you have to work out.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Let me share something else that would increase your lifespan. So we talked about health span and lifespan. I'm talking about health span, right? Not necessarily lifespan. I'm just learning this now because my blood work came back and my A1C number came back a little higher than what it needs to be. That's connected to diabetes, right? And no one in my family is diabetic. I'm not overweight. My visceral fat is very low.
Yeah.
So my doctor thinks it's connected to stress. But I asked my doctor for a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, which I have on my arm right now, just to understand how the foods are interacting with me.
Yeah.
This is what I was telling you guys about the whole medicine 3.0, where right now in our 30s and our 40s, foods are interacting a certain way that they should not be.
Yeah.
Right?
All these over-processed foods.
Right?
Definitely.
Your blood sugar is spiking when you're eating, for example, white rice or a tortilla.
Yeah.
What is it spiking to? Is that okay? How is that going to affect you 10 years from now?
Yeah.
Right? Because right now it's fine. You're enraged.
Yeah.
But you don't have this data. You don't have this information.
Yeah.
Right? So getting ahead of it and getting this information would sort of help you. And I learned something where as soon as you eat a meal, go take a 10-minute walk. It is mind-blowing as to walking for 10 minutes as soon as you eat, it will not allow your blood sugar to spike.
Yeah.
And stay in that 100, 110, 120 range, right? And as soon as you see it spike a little bit, just start walking at 4. Start walking at home. Don't leave the house.
Yeah.
And it suddenly goes back down and you're like, holy shit. I would never know this. Now I do because And now I do. Now you do it. You do, right?
And now all of our listeners know.
If you have not had a CGM and your A1C number is fine, amazing. But what I would tell you is, even if it's out of pocket, it's going to cost you 50, 60, 70 bucks for the month. Just go understand what your blood sugar levels are for a month.
Yeah.
Get the data.
Yeah.
It's funny that you talk about this because, so, I'm 48, right? And I do a yearly physical. I just had all my blood work done, and stuff like that. And my fasting glucose, little high. And it always has been.
How much was it?
This time it was 109.
Okay.
Right?
So they like it to be 90, right?
Yeah. That 100 in balloon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But my history says, and same sort of thing, right? I'm a little heavier than you, but a little bit thicker build than you are. But I'm not overweight, right? I exercise regularly. And so they wanted me, my doctor's like, you should do the H1AC test, right? So we did that and it came back and it's within range. It's where it's supposed to be, but
5.7.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe it was 5.3. I find sure. Yeah. So range was like within the range, but it's not
ideal.
It's not. It's optimal, but I should be on the lower side.
How can you do better?
Yeah, I can do better. I can do better, right? So, kind of interesting.
But that's funny you say that, right? Because how do you do better?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the data, if you don't know what food is making your blood sugar spike, you can't do better. You're already working out.
Yeah.
You're already trying to eat somewhat a balanced meal with the fiber and the protein. And so, go get yourself a CGM.
Yeah, so holding all this together, discipline. So I have a trainer.
There you go.
That I use, and he's very much into all this stuff. So when I did the blood work, I bring it to him too.
Yes.
Right? And so he starts looking at it a little different perspective. So he talked about the continuous glucose monitor. He talked a little bit about a couple other things, right? He's like, oh, well, this number actually, and my blood work collectively
is fine.
Love that. But, kind of carrying on to these things, right? So my dad died when I was 12. He was 49 years old. So he was 10 months older than I am today, right? And just, maybe was having some issues during the week, but then basically just laid down on a Sunday afternoon and died, right? And then earlier in this year, my mom started having some stuff, but in the process, they realized she has arteries that are clogged as well. So I've got genetics on both sides.
Oh, the cholesterol front and the diabetes front and what happened.
Yeah, nobody was diabetic, right? Like my cholesterol, well within range.
Sure.
Right?
What's your ApoB number?
Oh, is that the ratio?
That is that number that needs to be below 90, right? Because now they don't look at HDL and LDL anymore. What they now look at is your ApoB, which is your apoprotein or what have you.
Yeah, I'd have to look at that.
Yeah, they don't run it though. If you don't ask for it, they don't run it.
So I ran it. Because, so this is what I did. I reached out to my mom's cardiologist.
Yeah, but stick hand, I need this number from you.
Well, and not to mention, he's now sending me to get a cardiac calcium scan.
Oh, it's funny. Mine is being scheduled as we speak, and this is something I'd asked for.
Yeah.
Where it's funny that this is my frustration, and I'm not trying to make this podcast a medical podcast, but this is frustration. Where it's like, I'm telling my doctor that, hey, okay, I was not on cholesterol medication for over a decade.
Yeah.
What has that done to my body? Because sounds like I should have been on a statin this whole time.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we can then run what they call as the cashew index test.
Yeah.
But your insurance is not going to cover it.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. Bill me.
Yeah.
No. You know what? You can go so that I can do something.
Yeah. I don't care. I'll figure I'm going to pay for it. And he said the same thing about the calcium scan. He's like, it is the gold standard in telling me if you have started to have buildup in your heart.
Correct.
He said insurance companies will not pay for it. He's like, the good news is, we'll call around a few places. You can get her for fairly cheap, right? 150 to 100.
Oh, I do not know that. Please share that information.
Yeah.
We back out Palo Alto is sort of 500 something.
500, 600. Yeah. So the same sort of thing. Great. So we won't get into, but there's a hospital that's local. It does them for about $160. So
I learned something.
Yeah. There you go.
I love that. No, this is great.
Yeah.
And again, plug. People will think that I'm getting some sort of a commission or outlive.
Yeah.
The book that we did here, but he talks about all this stuff.
Yeah.
The A1C, the ApoB, what the numbers need to be,
Yeah.
What your zone 2, he talks about
Yeah.
shit, right? And I'm very passionate. I've gifted four copies, believe it or not, Jade. Like, I've gifted a copy to Steam, a common friend of ours. I've gifted a copy to the guy that works at Mendocino, and he used to work out the manager. And I just gifted a copy to my best friend. So
I'm waiting for my copy.
Both of you have a copy of this guy. I commit. As long as you guys commit to reading it.
Yeah, indeed. It's my job, indeed.
2 copies here. All right. Cool.
But yeah, I think this is important, for like all of our listeners out there, right? And what I think is interesting is like, we communicate fairly regularly when we see each other, stuff like that. We get into kind of that meta conversation and call this a little bit deeper, but like, I didn't know about these things, right? So what we all of a sudden we're finding common threads, right? So like, when we connect, right, and a big theme in one of our punchlines is find the others, which is like, when you start opening up, you start connecting with people, you find a lot of commonality. There's a lot of similar stories throughout their lives. And, it's funny, just using that, taping it off to a guy at work, like we're having the same conversation, right? Yeah. His dad died fairly young. Yeah. He's gone through a lot of this. His numbers are kind of wonky. He's a vegan. He's like an endurance runner, but his numbers are kind of off.
That's right. I mean, right? Genetics, right?
So sometimes genetics plays out. You talk to some people, it's like maybe they don't have as much of an impression, but the long story is, the short of it all is, at least in the U.S., like, we have a decent healthcare. It's a little bit more expensive, but if you can get into it, you have an option.
That's right.
Like, maybe it costs more for some people, less for some people, but the options are out there. And take advantage of it if you can. Especially as you start to age, but not too late, right? Like, don't wait till you're 50, 60 years old to check these things out. Start build the backbone on it. Like, build the habit. I agree, right? I go, like, ever since I turned 40, I think I started at 39. I go to a yearly physical.
That's right.
And I'm religious about it.
That's right.
Give me my blood work, check me out.
That's right.
And do some follow-ups if we need.
And look, can I say this too? Anybody that's out there that doesn't have insurance, don't be scared to go to the hospital. They're a nonprofit. They have to see you. So if you need something done, there are avenues for you to go out there and do it for yourself, regardless if you have the money or not. There's a thing called the sliding scale. So please look at that if you need to go to the hospital.
That's right. And the other thing I'll say to you, which I was a victim of this, where I trust the medical system, right? When I go, it's insurance, we're paying, you expect the doctor to give you the right information.
Yeah.
I realized, and look, they're doing what they're taught to do, and it's a system and it's a process. But what I realize is no one cares about your health more than you do.
Yes.
No one cares about your money more than you do.
Yeah.
So you've got to really double click and ask the tough questions.
Yes.
And push your doctor and your medical provider.
Yeah.
Right. But you can't do that if you're not educated.
Yeah.
You can't do that if you don't know better.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it's a family friend that's a doctor, or whether it's reading a book or a podcast or what have you, really get informed and collect the data. And hey guys, ChatGPT, it knows everything. But
it's funny you say that. I've actually got my blood work recently, and I dumped it in ChatGPT. Give me an understanding of what I read.
To me, more that is something. I mean, functional health is on the forefront now, where they're talking where it's not just doing lipid panel. It's a way bigger analysis of your lifestyle and not just your blood work, because that's a data point. There's a lot of other data points, right?
Yeah.
Your stress levels, your lifestyle, how much you're sleeping, what you're eating, what your mental state is. There are so many other things going on here.
Yeah.
And speaking of mental health, and I know we're talking about health, and
that's part of it.
So, I think that in the last iOS release, Apple Health dropped this thing called State of Mind. Do you guys know about this?
No.
So Apple Health dropped this thing called State of Mind, where it prompts you reminders twice a day, 3 times a day, once a day, where you literally look at it and you log how you're feeling. And there's neutral, there's slightly unpleasant, there's unpleasant, there's very unpleasant, and then there's neutral, slightly pleasant, whatever the case may be. And then there are
whatever Likert scale,
right, and there are tags, right? And it's easy. It's like 2 clicks. But then over time, and I started doing that, and I have like logged 150, 180 entries so far because I do it twice a day. But then over time, a pattern emerges.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, oh, why was I feeling unpleasant in this given point tonight? Oh, it's because of my work, or it's because I fought with my spouse, right?
Yeah.
And for us, for those of us who have partners or spouses or what have you, you can share that with him or her.
Yeah.
They can share it with you, and you can keep tabs on what their state of mind is.
Yeah.
Because if it gets pretty crazy, you don't have to wait for him or her to shout.
Yeah. Hey, I just got a text message that says you're not after.
You're not doing well. But it doesn't even have to be at the end, right? You can get what I'm saying. And I think this is why I love technology, and I want to use technology to its absolute max.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're to wait, right? And if I know that, Jackie's not doing too well, and if I already know that what's on her mind, then I can, without really calling out, I can try to be a little nice or what have you. And then for yourself, you can ask bigger questions. Am I in the right job?
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
Am I living my best life?
Yeah.
Right? And you can't do that if you're away. And you're just one step closer to that awareness.
Yeah, it's a level of awareness. I mean, I think that is case in point. Like this year has been somewhat stressful for me with some of my mom's health, some other personal things that I've been dealing with and things like that. And looking back versus the last year when we ran my blood work, like certain things like my glucose and stuff were a little bit higher, right?
Yeah.
Like my LDL cholesterol, like though it's kind of in optimal, but it's on the high end of optimal, where it was like kind of more in kind of like the lower before,
right.
Stuff like that. So, but let's kind of, we've talked about a lot of physical, right? Like we've mentioned mental, we've definitely talked about how they're connected, and stuff like that. But like, what do you do, like from a spiritual perspective, to deal with your mental? I think we talked a little bit about some mindsets that you hold close to yourself, like stoicism, and things like that. But what are there things that you do on a daily practice, or maybe not even daily, but consistently, or at least with some sort of discipline in your life, to enhance kind of your mental and spiritual well-being? And I think we're approaching it that way, and from my perspective, like we all come from different walks of life, right? So no matter what walks of life we come from, right? Like some of us were raised religious, or different types of religion.
That's right. Because some of us were raised atheist.
Yeah, exactly. But doesn't mean you're not spiritual.
100%,
right?
Yeah.
So like that's something we would like to really get through, and like, hey, kind of what do you do for a spiritual perspective? And if it's like, hey, I'm Christian and I go to church every Sunday, and that really helps me, that's great. But like, I think what I'm finding in my experiences of life is like it's such a large array, of what people do for their mental and spiritual health. I'd just be kind of interested in kind of like, how do you get into that better place? So, hey, if I am having a tough moment, like I ground myself in the gym, right? But there's some other spiritual things maybe I do in my life.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different directions we can take this conversation, right? I think, so there are two things here. There are people that love a very full plate where they're constantly busy, right? And they mask the issues that they had with their life, thinking that having a full plate and being busy, they're not going to have time to look in the mirror and ask themselves the harder questions, right?
Yeah. Distraction,
whatever, or the idea that I'm just way too busy, right? My core values are balance, authenticity, and adventure. I like a balanced plate. So to answer your question, Garret, is creating space, right? You've got to create space so that you can think about things in a deeper manner, right? So that's what, by not trying to have an extremely full plate, have a balanced plate so that I'm able to create space. the way I create space, and I'm not going to be hypocritical. I should do this more. I'm not doing it as much as I'd like to, but I think meditation, mindfulness. I think this word is overused. It's overcomplicated. But to me, mindfulness is nothing but sitting still and watching what goes on in your head. There will be thoughts.
Yeah.
You're trying to watch the thoughts as an observer and not interact with the thoughts. We're always engaging and interacting with our thoughts, right?
My friend uses this phrase because he's really into meditation, and he's like, be like a mirror, where you reflect on something, but you don't hold on to it.
Yeah,
right.
It's let it.
Yeah.
So I love Headspace. The owner, the founder of Headspace, his name is Andy. He's traveled the world studying concepts of meditation, and he's like distilled it down to some very easy to understand concepts. And he talks about the concept of the blue sky, and he talks about the concepts of the clouds being your thoughts, right? And the blue sky is the happiness and the peace and the bliss that all of us have and deserve. The light that we have and deserve, right? And it's just knowing that there are clouds, but they'll pass.
Yeah.
And there is always the blue sky above the clouds, right?
Peeks through here.
Peeks through here and there, but if you...
Some days it's really no clouds are in the sky. Some days it's totally overcast.
Right? It's that. And then I think...
Great minute.
Yeah, and I'm not religious. I want to believe that I'm spiritual. I am always connecting dots between intelligent conversations, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, what have you. And I know in Buddhism, Gautam Buddha speaks a lot about impermanence, the concept of impermanence, right? And in Hinduism, they talk about this. There's a saying that you've come empty-handed and you're going to go empty-handed, right? Yeah. So that's stoicism is the same thing, right? Like, you build a life full of values and meaning that is not materialistic, then that's something you sort of come back to. There's a common thread across here.
Yeah, it is. I'm a firm believer in that concept largely. It's like one of these things where, especially in the U.S. where we're pretty polarized a lot of these towns, but really, if you look across religions across the world, and I feel pretty fortunate. I grew up religious. I was raised in a Christian household, but I went to a Catholic high school, which is also Christian. But that's right. We had to take world religion classes.
Yep.
So we studied religions from all over the world, right? And there are a lot of common threads of religion across the world. It's like there is actually so much more that binds us together than actually pushes us apart. It's just like the messenger was Buddha. The messenger was Jesus, whatever it might have been.
Or a philosopher or Seneca, or what is Aurelius, so what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's it, right? I think keeping that in the forefront, creating space, meditating, and knowing that everything is fleeting, life is fragile, and the concept of impermanence sort of kind of helps me stay balanced, if you may, which connects to my core value.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's great. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think that pretty much sums up our podcast today. We really appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me. Hopefully this was, I know.
I learned a ton of things today. I think it was a great experience for me. Before we end, do you want to say anything, last thing directly to our users, like some pearl of wisdom, a little quote, little quotes, a little positive affirmations or anything like that you want to share?
Yeah.
Just talk.
Yeah, I think I love quotes. I'm a big quote guy. The one-liner that I have actually on my email, it's a signature. It's a quote, and the quote goes something like, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. So just keep that in mind, and keep digging deep and keep fighting, and it's going to be okay.
Awesome, man. That was awesome.
Thank you, Amit.
Yeah.
And this is the BlackWlvz, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Have a great day.